Hey, welcome to Management 387. Today we're going to be talking a lot about empathy, listening skills, and why these matter in your careers that are upcoming and why they matter in the entrepreneurial world. Let's start with a brief review. We know that businesses exist to solve a problem. The problems exist within the market. Timon's model of entrepreneurship reminds us that market demand is what drives entrepreneurship. The opportunity that we see in Timon's model of entrepreneurship is indicative of the market demand. What we hope to do is identify those problems within the market, be creative, innovate a great solution that the market is demanding, which is the difference between an idea and an opportunity, and that the market is demanding it. And we hope to take that to market and have a successful business. Well, in order to correctly identify the market demand, we have to go back and practice a skill called empathy. Now, empathy is something that we've all heard of, and it's simply the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes so that you can understand what they're thinking. Now, a lot of people think they don't have empathy or they can't do it. But the truth is, empathy is a learned skill. It's a skill that, unfortunately, we don't use a lot. But in this class, we're going to learn some tools to help us build our empathy skills so that we have some really good muscle memory when it comes to using empathy and that it becomes really second nature for us. Now, there are three types of empathy. The first one is cognitive empathy. And that is kind of just what it sounds like. I have the ability to think about what you might be feeling or experiencing. I have a really good idea of what that is. That's cognitive empathy. Emotional empathy is when we practice cognitive empathy, but take it a step further. And that is that not only can I think about what you might be feeling or experiencing, but I also feel it too. Compassionate empathy is both cognitive and emotional, but goes yet another step further. And that is, I put myself into your shoes. I can imagine how you're thinking and feeling. I feel what you're thinking and feeling, and I feel it so strongly that I have compassion for you, and I'm going to take action to do something about it. Now, all of the types of empathy are very valuable in our lives. They're especially valuable inside the business world. But the one that we will focus on the most in this class is cognitive empathy. Now remember, empathy is a learned skill. And so I'm going to give you lots and lots of ways to help you build your empathy. Now, why? Why is empathy so important? This sounds like something in a communications class or a relationship class, right? Well, true, it is. But that's important in the entrepreneurship world too. You see, we have to build relationships in order to have customers, in order to understand customer needs, and to be able to develop solutions to deliver to them so that we can be successful. We also have to be able to communicate that we understand where our customers are coming from. The beauty of empathy is if someone has expressed empathy with you and you're on the receiving end of it, it's a wonderful feeling. It's the feeling of being seen and the feeling of being heard. If you can make your customers feel seen and feel heard and let them know that you care about their problems and you're trying to solve their problems, then you'll be able to develop a better relationship with them, which will help you be more successful. Now, empathy is a tool. It's a learned skill, something that you can practice and hone and get really, really good at it. And it's a tool we use in a lot of different ways. First of all, we use empathy to identify market problems. Remember, I told you in that brief review, businesses exist to solve a problem. The market tells us what the problem is, and then we need to develop a solution to help them. However, if we don't have empathy, if we can't put ourselves in the market's shoes, then it's impossible for us to ever fully identify what market problem needs to be solved. To build upon that, if we need empathy to be able to develop a solution that the market values. Now, remember when you talked about opportunities and entrepreneurs last week, we said that an opportunity is an idea that has durability, is attractive to the market, is valuable, and it becomes an entrepreneurial opportunity when the market will pay for it. Well, in order to know if an idea is going to be an opportunity and an entrepreneurial opportunity, we need to be able to practice empathy. Everything that we do in business is not about what we think is cool or what best serves us. The people who are most successful in business have a really keen eye for the market, and they're constantly serving the market. What problems are the market having? What solutions can I give them that they value? Additionally, empathy helps us to build relationships with people. Those people may be the ones who are on our entrepreneurial team, our founding team. They may be people who work for us. They may be other contractors that we work with in order to deliver our product or to make our product. Maybe they're our marketing company or the company we hire to develop our app. Regardless of who the person is, we have to be able to build an effective relationship with them. In order to build great relationships, use empathy. Again, if a person feels seen and a person feels heard, they're more likely to trust you and confide in you, and you can build better relationships. Also, empathy is a tool that helps effective managers and leaders with their subordinates. The better that you can understand where your employees are coming from, and the more that you can understand what they're feeling, the better you can provide a solution for them so that they can perform better for you. So all of this is really, really important. And we now are seeing that empathy is a foundational skill necessary to be effective in the business world. As a matter of fact, let's think about what's happening in the business world. You see, as students, you're coming into this class and you're getting your degree so that you can enter into a career, build your career, whether it's a new career field, a different career field, or you just want to advance in the one you're in now. You're in this class for a reason. So with that being said, I take it upon myself to prepare you for that. That's my job. And in order to do that, I try to stay caught up on a lot of the research and things that are going on. What are job trends and what are the skills that you need to be most successful in the future? Everything is pointing towards empathy. So think about this. Have you ever gone to a fast food restaurant and ordered from a kiosk? You have. Automation is taking over for a lot of jobs. No more frontline workers at fast food restaurants. It's being automated. Think about going to the doctor's office. Have you ever been to the doctor's office and rather than checking in at a front desk with a receptionist, you check in with a kiosk? Yes. The receptionist is going away. That job is being automated. Now, we may think, well, it's just the jobs that don't require a college education that are being automated, but that's not true. As a matter of fact, a recent study, and I'm not going to get the details exactly right, but you'll get the gist of it. There was a recent study that compared medical students to a computer to see which one of the group was better at diagnosing patient illness. The medical students and the computer were presented with several different scenarios. These were patients that had a multitude of symptoms, and it was each of their job to diagnose what was wrong with the patient, I'm sorry. Now, we would think that the medical students would outperform the computer. We would think that because the medical students should be more present, should be more mindful, should be in the moment. So we would think that they could see their body language, they could hear changes in the voice that perhaps the computer couldn't hear or even try to understand. So when they ran all of these scenarios past the medical students and past the computer, Guess how it turned out? Overall, medical students had a pretty good, a pretty good result in predicting the proper diagnosis for the patient, about what we would expect to see in the medical world. The computer was 100% accurate. Now, the medical students didn't lose, but the medical students didn't win either. As a matter of fact, the computer performed just as well, actually just a bit better than the medical students. So what does that mean? That means it's going to be really easy to automate the diagnostic portion of a doctor's job. It's not just the frontline worker at the McDonald's that's going to be automated. We're seeing this happen in our high-level, highly educated professional fields as well. What does that mean? Well, let's think about the second part of this study. They took the same medical students, the same computer, and gave them a different scenario. And in this scenario, they presented them with a woman who had just given birth to a baby that had Down syndrome. It was a complete surprise. They had no idea the baby was going to be born with Down syndrome. It was the medical student's job to go talk to the mother, tell the mother what was going on, and to give her all of the information and to comfort her in this time of surprise. Computer had to do this as well. So both go through the scenario. How do you think it went? Well, the medical students blew it away. They nailed it. The computer, not so much. And the reason for this is humans have empathy. They have not been able to create empathy in the computer yet. So this tells us a lot. This tells us that if you want to have job security in the future, then you need to find a job that requires empathy and human relationship interaction so that you can have job security. A lot of the other jobs within your lifetime are going to be automated. You can find these jobs, but before you do this, you've got to be sure that you are really, really good at empathy. Remember, it's a learned skill. You can practice your empathy skills, and you need to make sure that you develop an effective muscle memory when it comes to being empathetic. Let's talk about empathy in the entrepreneurial world as well, because it is, like I said, it's the foundational skill for being effective in the business world, whether it's being innovative, creative, or whether it's developing relationships, whether it's identifying market problems that need to be solved, or developing the solutions that will be your opportunities that you're taking to market. Empathy is the foundational skill. It's also the foundational skill in design thinking. Now, design thinking is becoming very predominant in the corporate world and in the entrepreneurship world. It is a mindset that utilizes a human-centered approach to identify and understand problems and then develop innovative solutions. And it is pretty much the process that we're going to try to follow inside 387 to help you grow your empathy and to be creative and innovative to develop entrepreneurial solutions that you will pitch. A human-centered design, we said design thinking is human-centered, means that it's a blend of the user's desire to have your product, how easy is it for them to use your product, and also how economical is it for you to create this product and to sell it. Where the three of these intersect is where true innovation occurs. Now that you understand a bit about design thinking, let's look deeper into the design thinking process. It has 5 stages. Right now, I want you to think about the first 2. The first stage, the foundational skill, is empathy. We're going to talk so much about it this semester. You're going to get so good at it. But you have to be able to see and identify problems in the market that need to be solved. The second stage is defining, and this is where we articulate the problem to be solved and we articulate the solution that we're trying to bring to market. So now that we know how important empathy is, how do we grow it? I'm going to give you several tools throughout the semester to help you build your empathy skills, but we're going to start with two important ones. The first one we're going to start with is you need to be mindful. Now, I know we hear this a lot, like mindfulness, meditation, and it may sound just a bit hokey. Meditation and mindfulness are not always the same thing. You can be mindful while you're meditating, but you don't always have to meditate to be mindful. Mindful is really just being present, really being in the moment. It's devoting 100% of your focus to whomever is talking or whatever it is that's in front of you. It's the ability to see it, to hear it, to think about it. How do things smell? How do they feel? How do they look? How do they sound? Taking everything in, being 100% present, and doing so in a manner that you are putting your thoughts, feelings, and biases aside so that you can fully understand what you're seeing, hearing, experiencing. We're going to talk more about biases later in the semester so that you can understand how they get in the way of empathy. But for now, just understand that being present and mindful is one of the key components of being empathetic. Another tool that we're going to introduce right now is your ability to participate in active listening. You're going to hear me say a lot, listen between the lines, listen between the lines. That is my way of saying practice active thinking. In the reading that I gave you on the website, I gave you something that I wrote right as COVID started, and it was where I articulated in an example how to do active listening. And this is one way that you can be empathetic. I want you to go through and be very familiar with the 7 steps of active listening. The first one, as we said, is be present, be mindful. And when you listen to understand the person that's talking. Don't listen to be entertained. Don't listen to respond. Listen to ask questions. Ask questions. That's a great way to think about it. Am I listening to ask them more questions about what they're saying, or am I listening to try to give a response? The second part of active listening is not interrupting. Let the person finish. And after they finish, don't come back with, oh, that's a great story. I remember one time when I. That's a perfect way to tell them you don't care what they said. You heard them, but I don't really care. I want to tell you about me. Active listening is about putting the other person and their interest and their story first. Also, remind yourself that it's not your job to judge. You might not be right. You don't know everything. We know by talking about the theory of bounded rationale, it's impossible for us to know everything. Nobody knows everything. And we now understand that people have different knowledge and they know different things. So remind yourself you're not always right and you don't know everything. That helps you to be a more active listener. Finally, and this is probably one of the most important things that people need to realize about empathy is you don't have to agree with someone to hear them, to see them, or to be empathetic towards them. So, for example, I don't agree with violence. Not at all. However, there have been a lot of riots and protests over the last 12 months, and a lot of them have included violence. If I stop and think about Black Lives Matter, or perhaps even the riots and the protests that took place at the Capitol a few weeks ago, if I'm really empathetic, I can put my thoughts and my beliefs about either one of those topics aside. And I can stop to imagine cognitive empathy, how the people in these riots must think and feel. I can imagine that the people who are rioting or protesting in the Black Lives Matter movement could see why they would be angry. I can understand how they're feeling hurt, how they're not feeling heard. And they're so desperate to be heard that they decided to resort to violence because they feel like that's the only way someone will hear them. Now, I don't agree with the violent part of it. But if I sit back and put myself in their shoes, I can begin to understand how it rose to that occasion. Doesn't mean I agree or I condone. But being empathetic is about really putting myself aside and trying to figure out why people act the way they act. And it's based on their feelings. Same could be said for the people who were rioting at the Capitol building. I don't agree with what happened. I don't agree with people dying. I don't agree with the violence. But once again, I can understand why people are scared, frustrated, angry, and just want to be heard. And when we want to be heard, that means I am screaming for someone to have empathy for me. And if you're not going to give it to me, then I'm going to lash out and do something to make you listen to me. Again, I don't agree with it, the way with the violence part of it, but I can understand how it got there. That is really a hard part of empathy. And we'll talk more about empathy obstacles later. But just remember that this is one of the key components of being really good at empathy. Finally, when it gets to being empathetic, don't give advice. Sometimes people just want to be heard. They just need to vent. They just need to get it out. Just listen. Remember, you might not even know the solution. Maybe they've already tried some solutions. A good way to finish it up is say, well, tell me, what have you done about that? And let them keep talking. If they need advice, they'll ask you for it. And then the last step in active listening is don't tell people to get over it. When you tell someone to get over it, that is like, you told me how you feel, and I think that it's unwarranted. I think it's unjustified. Everybody's feelings are justified. You might not understand them. You may need to practice your empathy skills a little bit more. And you don't have to agree with them. But everyone's feelings are justified. So never say tough it out or get over it. Again, there are some obstacles to empathy. Some of them are biases. We won't go into those in depth today, but we'll talk about them in the semester. A lot of it is about pressure that we put on ourselves to do the right thing. It paralyzes us. And then some of the reasons that we can't be empathetic is negative messaging. We've been programmed to think it's us against them. And when we do that, then we can't put our thoughts and feelings aside to actually be effective. This wraps it up for talking about empathy. You need to read the empathy article posted on the website. You also need to read the article on the 7 steps to active listening and understand that active listening and mindfulness are the first steps in learning how to exercise your empathy skills. Now, you're going to have a test on Tuesday. The test on Tuesday is going to cover all of the information on the website, ginasimpson.online, under Info for Exam 1. You need to read it all and be very familiar with it. The exam is going to be administered on Blackboard, and it will happen if you are an in-person student. It will happen, well, everybody in 387 is in person. That's right. I got it mixed up with my 386. Your exam will be administered during your class time and only during your class time. So don't miss it. Don't miss it. I don't give makeup exams. I don't reschedule exams either. Go read my syllabus on those policies. So you're going to take it on Blackboard. I will send you an email reminding you that the exam is there and it is available during your class time on Tuesday. Respondus Lockdown Browser is required to take the exam. The answers, the questions are going to be a mixture of true, false, and multiple choice. I don't know how many questions are on the test yet because I haven't finished writing it yet. But remember, I told you guys the first part of the semester is going to be really concept heavy. There's a lot of info there. Need you to internalize the concepts, get a really good understanding of them, and then we're going to spend the rest of the semester practicing putting all of these concepts into play. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and email me, and I am here to help you if you need it. I hope all of you have a great weekend. Let me get my cursor over here so I can stop recording for you. I hope all of you have a fantastic weekend. If you have any questions about the exam, which is on Tuesday, just let me know.